David,
Yes, sir.
okay. Madam Chair, wow, you have a full quorum. We're ready.
Madam Chair, we're live.
Today is April 9th, 2024, and the time is 5:06 p.m. I'm calling to order the Baldwin Park Stakeholders Oversight Committee regular meeting. Pastor Jackson, can you please lead us in an invocation?
Heavenly Father, we come before you right now in the name of the Lord. We praise you and we thank you, Lord. We could do nothing without your divine direction, and that's what we're looking for here in Baldwin Park. Many decisions are to be made, Lord, and we want to make these decisions wisely, correctly, that will enhance our city. And so we invite you to be with us, direct us, and to help us. In the name of Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Amen. And now if I can have everyone please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Put your right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Chief Deputy Clerk Quinones, can I please have a roll call?
Yes. Chair Lara,
Here.
Vice Chair Jackson,
Here.
Member Hernandez, Member Martha Cárcamo,
Here.
Member Orozco,
Here.
Member Rodriguez,
Here.
Member Nguyen.
Here.
We have quorum.
Thank you. So at this moment, we will open public communications. Chief Deputy City Clerk Quinones, is there anyone looking to speak?
We did receive a public comment. I would be calling the person right now.
Okay.
Hello?
Yes, Mr. Garcia, this is Shirley with the City of Baldwin Park. I'm calling regarding your public comment.
Yes.
Are you ready to speak? We'll give you 3 minutes.
Yeah, I'd like to say a couple of things if you don't mind.
Okay, you could begin.
I'm sorry?
You can begin.
Okay. First of all, good evening, everybody. Hope everyone's having a good day and continue to your evening. I'm calling for a couple of things. First of all, I'd like to ask the subcommittee to stop acting like Santa Claus in April. The reason I say this is because when Measure BP passed, there were promises made about a sports complex, and I'd like all of you to keep in mind what the big picture was, what the promises were made. You guys have okayed millions of dollars of money, the BP money. I mean, I don't know if there was any revenue coming in from anywhere else. You guys haven't asked, or I haven't heard anything. I mean, this is the only revenue coming in. We haven't heard anything about we're going to have to purchase land, with the construction cost of the sports complex, or anything like that. So I just ask you guys to keep that in mind. What promises that were made, just sports complex that everyone can enjoy, and it hurts me that. Just today, we're going to talk about funding frameworks for really the people that need it the most, the organizations, the residents, the group, the community group. A lot of the subcommittee members have organizations in the city. So that kind of upset me that came so late in the game. But I just want to remind you guys that just keep that in mind. You know, what the BP money was meant for? Is there other revenue? I mean, it just seems like this is the only revenue we're getting. Or asking, to fund these, other projects, and you're gonna be asked today to, almost $1 million. So just, I'd like for you guys to just keep that in mind. And, with that, that's it.
Thank you for your.
So if there's anyone else that's looking to speak that did not fill out a speaker card, now would be the time.
Business owner. I came here not really to.
Mr. Tuttle, please check that the microphone is turned on.
Oh, you okay now?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't come to speak against any of you guys. I mainly are trying to get the attention of the city directors, the city council, the city manager, and to quit bringing stuff into you guys to vote on that's junk. I hated this BP measure. I tried to fight it by putting banners up and everything else because I knew exactly where the city was going to go. They were going to think this is free money. They're going to go spend it on everything else that they shouldn't be. This BP measure was promised, and I want to see a sports center put in here. Now, the thing, I read Manny's staff report today on this glorious $3 million again dumping into the city, redoing the water park again, that we used to get funding from the water department in order to do the water park thing, because it always is plugged up and always a problem. But the problem is, Manny writes in the staff report that the city's very low on the cities of having park space. Well, I'm trying to find a real reason of how he's going to get more park space with this whole conglomerate thing of all new toys and all that other stuff. That isn't going to gain us any space. What we need to do is what we promised. You're going to go get some school property, work with the school of closed schools, and let's get a sports center up here. Let's quit going and buying new trucks for the Parks and Rec. Let's quit putting all this money into Walnut Creek, into the other park over here, and start expanding. That's what the money was meant to do, not to do what they're trying to do with bringing in all this other stuff. And this is where you people need to watch what they're doing. Because like the bus stops, they wanted to do the bus stops. That's grant money. They were lazy. Well, God, we got to work at it if we got to do grant money. So we'll come over here and get some free money because you got almost $6 million in the bank there to spend. And man, they're like kids in a candy store when they see that kind of money. And they're going to spend it. And you people have to be responsible for it and answer for it and help us out. And let's get that sports center in here so the kids can do soccer, baseball, all the sorts of sports. They can't do that over at the park. They wear the grass out and then they fence it off. So let's pay attention to what they're trying to do to you. And that's all I'm asking, is just pay attention to what the city council directors and these guys are trying to shove down your throat, because it's not good. And the BP measure was a bad deal to begin with, increasing our property or our sales tax, and people go to other cities to buy. I go to Chino, 7.75%. It's ridiculous. It shouldn't happen, but it did. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
John Rios, resident. One of the things that I've noticed, I came to the last meeting and I noticed that you guys only meet together once a month. You guys should be meeting at least twice a month, because from one month to another, they're like Mr. Tuttle said, they're trying to use the money or something else other than what the money was supposed to go to, I talked to Manny and I told him we need some exercise equipment at Walnut Creek. Because most of the community in that area, they have to go all the way to Kaiser to do their exercises over there. And we have the space right there at Walnut Creek. I don't know how much it's gonna be. But it's something that you guys should look into. like Mr. Tuttle says, the money was supposed to go for the community. Not like, new tractors, new cars, new whatever. See what they're trying to do with you guys. You're the ones that are getting hanged on all this. I'm talking for my community. I belong to that community next to Walnut Creek. Plus, I go to Barnes too. And people always come and they ask me, Huck, where's the money going to? We want more space. We have the space. We got the space at Barnes Park. When are they going to start doing anything over there? It was supposed to be done since, November of last year? And we still haven't seen nothing over there. So like Mr. Tuttle says, we're going to come back at you guys, which you guys do not have the fault. So listen to what they're saying and where they want to put the money in. Let's put it back into the community, the kids and everything. I've gone to the baseball parks and everything. They do not have enough kids that they have to be traveling from National to American to Covina to West Covina to play because they don't have enough kids. Years before, there were at least 10 teams per division. Now we don't even have that because it costs too much money. I have a family down the street. She has 2 kids. She's a single parent. For 2 kids, it's $500. And she's a single parent. Those are the things that we need to invest on the kids. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Jesse Plata, resident from Baldwin Park. And you had one speaker called in. You got the other 2 speakers talking about the same issue. Who is putting this agenda together? It's supposed to be you, not our city CEO or whoever's doing it. You are in charge of it. Make sure that the money is spent for what it was intended and not for what they want. I'm seeing the agenda from last month. There was one issue regarding the bus stops. There was no vote on it or nothing. And I'm seeing today's, it's not on there. What took place? Do you ever have time to discuss and question who is putting this agenda together? You should be doing it. I know that probably everybody works and probably you don't have time to look into it and get together and discuss it. Last time, the meeting, I did have one of the members up there, Mr. Hernandez, invited me to go and join him to go see the bus stops. I should have, I didn't. But he's the only one that has extended to say, would you like to go? Do you go out back to the community and discuss? Do you have the time to discuss what they want? The CEO or somebody else come in here and put in an agenda and tell you, this is what you're going to vote on. That is not the way it was supposed to be. It was supposed to be that you would discuss it with the community and put an agenda together. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Okay. So seeing that no one else is looking to speak, we will move to close public communications. And now we will move on to new business. Item 1, Measure BP Sales Tax Financial Update.
Hi, good evening, committee chair and members and everyone. I would like to provide you the financial update as of March 24, and that we have received about 6.3 millions from the Measure BB sales tax. And we have incurred or received about $14,000 in interest income. And together we bring about 6.39 millions to the Measure BP funds. As you may recall, and the city has been appropriate $36,000 to 11 police new vehicle with 5-year lease approved by the SOC and the city council. And also the city has appropriate 1.29 million for the two-way APX radio system for PD that approved by the SOC and city council. And also we have appropriated $80,000 for the architecture services for conceptual reports for a proposed sports complex approved by the SOC and city council. So total committed expenditure added up to $2.5 million, which will leave the projected fund balance under the sales, Measure BP sales tax with about 3.877 million as of March 31st, 2024. If you have any questions. Thank you.
So now we'll move on to item 2, stakeholders, Oversight Committee, March 12th, 2024 meeting minutes. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes for March 12th?
I make a motion that we accept the minutes.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Member Hernandez,
Yes.
Member Marta Carcamo,
Yes.
Member Orozco,
Yes.
Member Rodriguez,
Yes.
Member Nguyen,
Yes.
Vice Chair Jackson,
Yes.
Chair Lara,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thank you. Now we move on to item 3, City and Community Empowerment Investment Opportunity Category, Request for Funding Framework.
Is it on now? Yes. Madam Chair, members of the SOC committee, this item is the beginning of what I believe will be a long discussion among the SOC members. I don't mean long just today, but it may carry over into a few sessions, including the opportunity for members of the public to come and testify or present ideas to you here in the chambers. But what this item is intended to do is to develop a framework that will be inclusive of criteria and a number of other things for proposals that can be presented, requests for funding that can be presented to the SOC by members of the public, residents, community organizations. The community organizations can be of various types. That can be, certainly nonprofit organizations. They can be just neighbors coming together and so on. It can also be inclusive of sports organizations. So part of it is for the SOC to engage in that sort of debate, quite open, debate in terms of how you see opening up the opportunity for the public to present requests for funding to the SOC through my office, but in effect directly to the SOC. And whether the types of proposals can be limited by a dollar cap or not. I mean, for example, if a neighborhood believes that 2 or 3 streets in their neighborhood are in need of paving, as an example, and they were to say, well, look, these coordinates of streets between street X and street Y on the east to the west, and let's say it amounts to half a mile of paving as an example, well, that could take up a lot of money, in which case, a small monetary cap would not be suitable, because if we limit it to a smaller amount, well, then a project like paving wouldn't be eligible. It would blow right through the cap. So part of what you could consider and should consider is whether we start out with small proposals, below a certain dollar cap. Could be $10,000 or less, or it could be $20,000 or less. I mean, a lot of things are very costly in construction, as an example, or it could be lighting, it could be all those things that we had talked about. Or it could also be inclusive of programs. An example, Mr. Rios mentioned it, registration for a sports organization, no matter what, whether it's baseball, football, volleyball, you name it, or any other type of sports activity. If an organization were to request funding to help subsidize the registration fee, I mean, that could be something that this committee would be interested in including in the criteria. So what I encourage and ask that you start out with a very clean slate. We as staff, we're not placing any, I think the ability for you to shape how this program can end up being designed, I think it's an interest that you obviously had expressed, and we want it to be that way. And at some point, as you guide us, we can obviously develop criteria and then propose it to you. But today, maybe today, next meeting as well, we make it a point to encourage residents to come and give you ideas here to this meeting. I think us scheduling community meetings as we had in the past, that's always an option. But I think you having these regular standing meetings, as the chair had indicated in the past, it's probably also equally effective if we promote residents coming here to the chamber and address the SOC here in your regular standing meeting. So, if you take on the discussion of how you envision or how you think the residents can submit proposals, completely clean slate.
One of the things that I'd like to deal with, how we started out with this, and watching over the money to make sure that the money gets to the community. And there's so many things that components of the community. Now, do we deal with different infrastructures? Do we deal with things like the park? I say we have a major concern about the park, and a lot of people kind of voted on that, of having a sports session. This is my first time being in this.
I know, I know.
So being a politician, I don't know, but if I say that I'm going to be on a committee to help the community out and see that the money gets where the community goes, that's what I want to do. That's what we have. Now, my question is, because everything's important, like the bus stop. I did a personal survey on the buses, and other things. What's the priority? Where do we go as number one, and what do we put in, and do we invest in? Where's our priority?
Well, I think that's a hard question to answer because it seems like there's, I don't want to say competing, but it's almost like we have this list and it's almost like a hierarchy of like urgency. So I understand what you're saying, but I also think that having this grant is great because we're putting it back in the hands of the community to say, hey, this is what I think my area needs. Because even as I am a Baldwin Park resident, you know, for as small as Baldwin Park may seem, to me, it's so big because there's still pockets that I'm not familiar with. So I can't speak to those, but I can hear, you know, the residents coming and saying, hey, this is what, you know, we're struggling with. So I think I love the idea of these small grants. I just think, you know, two things that came to mind, you know, prior to obviously having this discussion is as we come to terms with something over, you know, the next couple discussions is just having something on there, say requirements are subject to change, because I am sure that as we're developing this or we're having community members come and apply, I just don't know if it'll be ever evolving because there, you know, I always say you don't know what you don't know until it's like right in front of your face. So that, and then two, you know, something you mentioned, Enrique, which was, you know, when we get a request that might be part of a bigger, you know, need like the sidewalks. So also being able to differentiate that, but then I don't know if there might be more of an urgency because maybe they're in a very, you know, bad condition. I don't know, but I think those are the two things that came to my mind as we're working on this.
I think you highlighted a lot of points and like you know, we're here for the community. So one of the things that I did want to kind of look into is, I mean, as we're coming up with this infrastructure or framework, is there something already in place so we don't have to develop from scratch or reinvent the wheel that is right now utilized by like the city council or the city where the community comes in to put in like a request or some sort of, you know, recommendation of something that needs to be either upgraded, replaced, modified or updated. If there is something like that, if you can share that with us, that way we don't have to start with a, you know, a clean slate where, you know, with a framework. And then on the other hand, I do want to make sure that we all understand that, you know, these meetings are public. So I do appreciate those that come to speak. And that is one of the things I think that for me personally, I had in mind is to listen. And a couple of the things that we heard were, you know, sports centers. So I know we've allocated a little bit of that funding already for that. And then, you know, the safety. And so I think we are, you know, it doesn't seem like we're moving fast enough, but I do feel that we are at least allowing the community to come and speak, and we are here. So I think opening this up again and maybe highlighting it a little bit more, maybe whoever is coming in to speak, to share with their community members, to also let them know that this is where they need to come to present these ideas and you know, recommendations for the framework that we're going to create.
To go back to Pastor Jackson's point about priorities, I think that's something that we do have a kind of framework for why we had those categories. And that's something that I think we want to talk about in a lot of these meetings. For me personally, I do think that sports complex is a major priority for everything because in every single community meeting, even to like today, that is like the one major thing that everyone has been requesting and talking about. So I just want to let everyone know that that is something that I can't speak for everybody that we are in highly anticipating, and we already have the concept being worked on, or at least have set aside the money that other chairman has said. Definitely public safety is something that I think we should prioritize. And just to me, personally, for me, recreation parks and senior community are things that I think are very valuable. That if we are going to start talking about what are priorities, I know that's what I'm going to be thinking about. And to also speak on that, the template, but at least for the people who want to come in, I think that can be feeling overwhelming asking for a grant. If we can provide people with a kind of template to be like, this is how we're looking for from the city, that would help to encourage a lot more people to speak out. Because if not, I know that if they told me, oh, ask for a grant, I wouldn't know where to start. But especially because it's something brand new to this whole city, this is nothing that's very unique to Baldwin Park. I don't think anything that's even been established right now can adjust to what we need. And it needs to start from fresh. And that's why it takes a long time, not just because we're the government essentially now, but that's just how it is. I would propose if we can create that template that's very user friendly, that's very easy to read in multiple languages that are going to be, here's how you submit it. You can adjust it to how you need it to be, make it very user friendly that anybody, even if like a high schooler or a middle schooler or sees it, can be like, I can fill this out and see, hey, I really want you to pay for my whole team's registration. Can you do that? They can propose that. And it's simple. And if they need it more complex, can assist in some ways.
So I think just to kind of, I'm just gathering, well, does anyone else have anything else to say, Greg?
Yeah, let me say something. Um, you know, a couple of the SOC members did discuss the safety. We went to meetings at local schools, safety. And we brought up other safety measures that other people spoke about safety in their community, et cetera. And we addressed it a couple weeks ago when we approved the police department vehicles and radios. Does safety go on the end of the list now? Did we really fix the whole issue at this point in time? Because we still have, I know George at the senior center, there's a safety issue there that we addressed. Police issue, but we didn't address the senior center. Does that get pushed down to the bottom again? It's a question. With the framework, do we still leave senior center at the top of the list, near the list, on that end? On the sports complex, it is a big issue because it's in people's mouths, it's in people's conversation in the public now. When is it going to be built? Where is it going to be built? All those questions. I think last meeting we addressed getting scope of the project from an architectural standpoint. So we have something in our hand to touch and look at. I think with the framework, the list we have, I think we should spend some time and actually put some ground rules to what, if we address something, is it put to bed and it gets put on the back burner, or does it stay on the top of the list until it gets completed? That's my thoughts on where the framework, it needs a little more conditions on how we address things. Thanks.
So I don't think we're negating the categories, and actually I feel like that's the beauty of the committee is we can jump around. I don't think we necessarily have to like backseat anything. I think we can just, move between them. But I think that while we are doing that, which I believe we're taking care of our community on more of a macro scale, I still think it's important to embed these individual grants so that while we're impacting the community at large, we're also hearing those individual voices. As far as, like I said, those needs that we may not be aware of. And so I do agree with you that it would be nice to get a template that maybe is already being used that then we can work with to finalize. Like, is this gonna work for us? Do we like this? Do we move it around? But at least we have a starting point to evaluate, if this is what we want or not. Because I think even for me, I'm having a hard time trying to figure out like what would go on there. I think I agree with everybody. It has to be simple. It cannot be complicated because then that's very scary and overwhelming. We definitely have to narrow down the dollar amount. But because that's not my expertise, I'm kind of like, well, I don't know what else needs to be there besides like a name and a phone number and an address and what the challenge or the issue is.
May I say something?
Sure.
Thank you. I just want to add that I notice you guys are going by the needs of what the community expressed at your meetings, because I was at those meetings, and you are following through on those requests. It's hard to tackle everything at once, and you are prioritizing as they're bringing ideas to you, and that's all the departments are doing. They're bringing ideas based on what was put on there by our residents, the needs. For example, the police safety, like you said, you tackled that. The sports complex is a little more complex. So maybe for that, you've already started on it, but the community may think that it's something that can happen so quickly. So maybe updating every meeting, especially that particular project, because it will be a lengthy project. It's not going to happen in 1 or 2 years. It's going to take time. Right now, you allocated the 80,000 for the architectural services for a concept. So there's a lot involved. Maybe at the next meeting, give a little overview, Enrique, of more or less how much time a project like this will take, so the community understands. They've already started with allocating that money for the architectural services. What may be the next steps, and how long of a window will it be before we actually see something into action, money being placed for that project? Because we have to look at land. Do we have the land? How much is it going to cost? What do we want this project to really look like? So I think if the community gets updates on where we're at least with that particular project, because that's a huge project that is not going to cost $1 or $2 million. It's going to cost a lot more. So just constantly updating the community where you're at with the project, and give them an overview, more or less, how long a project like this is going to take and the steps. Maybe they will understand that you are working on it. The promises that you made are there, and you already started on that. And the rest, like I said, the departments coming in, giving you suggestions, they're basing it on the needs. So again, it's going to be up to you whether you feel, yes, you're right, that is a priority, but this is a priority first. That's something that you are going to decide. But I see that you are basing your decisions on what the priorities the community gave us. I just wanted to add, thank you for prioritizing and for looking at the needs of the community. But I do see that you are going towards that direction and making sure you can't do everything at once. So little by little. So I thank you for doing the SOC committee. It is going to be difficult to allocate money and decide what's first, but I think you'll know once it's in front of you, what's the next step, whether it's continuing full speed ahead with the sports complex or start something else, because the sports complex will take you a long time. Thank you.
And thank you, Councilmember Avila, because you just gave me an idea. Is it possible that as decisions are being made, that can be highlighted on the city's webpage, but also in the Baldwin Park Now? Just so that, in addition to everything Councilmember Avila mentioned, that the community at large is getting updates?
Absolutely. And you will even be on the State of the City address this Thursday. But yeah, we now, there's a dedicated page for SOC on the website. And so we put everything on there. And when you do an approval, to the extent that I think there's comfort here in us promoting that, I think that's what you're saying, that we promote when you make a decision, such as the things you had already approved, that we do a social media. We will do that.
And then the other thing I did think of, based on what Sasha said, is that, looking forward, once we finalize what this mini grant application looks like, maybe having 2 different city town halls to introduce it, to say, hey, look at what we have, to actually share the information aside from just on a web page or on a newspaper.
So the interest would be for town hall type of community meetings?
If
as-
if my colleagues agree, I just think that that's like another way of sharing the information and allowing the community to ask questions.
Absolutely. The only thing that we learned from the community meetings, obviously, the convenience of being closer to where the residents are, uh, versus the convenience of the regular standing of this meeting.
Right.
Where folks know it's going to happen on this day of the month, and it's here, parking is plentiful and it's accessible. But yeah, if the SOC would be interested in also going to the community in the form of town halls, as opposed to having the town halls, but having them here.
Right.
Which would be the same. So yeah, I would recommend that we have them here, but have them be town halls, member Rodriguez. But if I can also touch on what a potential template. The idea, we wanted not to come in with a prescribed way of going about this, Member Soto, because we want it to be, when you spend the time to identify the investment opportunity categories, the 10 that we identified and you adopted, those are all encompassing of what we heard from the public, as Councilmember Avila mentioned, and that we understood that there would be many sources where an idea, a request could originate. What we started out with was outside of the sports complex, which was universal, right? All of you know that that's a universal priority, and you took it on immediately as a priority right out the gate. Everything else, we said, well, who could be the originator of requests and ideas? And so we started out with a department-based request. In the first few meetings, you only heard from departments because, we obviously work for the city council on behalf of the community. So anything that we bring to you is on behalf of the community, but it originates from a department. Sometimes it's in response to a need that we have identified that came from residents. As an example, you haven't seen anything like on speed bumps or speed checks, where we do the speed monitoring, the police department with the forget what you call those chiefs, those apparatus that go on the side of the street that flash the speed limit. Yeah. Anyway, any number of those, right? But what you have seen so far are requests that are being presented by the departments. So, and that most likely will continue to be one of the ways in which you see requests for funding. On the idea of having something be presented directly by the community, we by no means meant that the community do all the legwork. No, totally, completely agree that the process has to be simple. Maybe all the members of the public need to do is fill out a simple form like you guys were saying. In terms of a existing framework, looking at, and I mentioned this to other folks about places like Los Angeles. It's a big city. It's a big city, I understand. But Los Angeles has these neighborhood councils. These are groups of folks that are organized around a area in a city. And then those neighborhood councils are given grants, like an allocation of money, but they're officially organized. They're almost like a part of the city organization. They started out as just being community groups, and then they became formally chartered as neighborhood councils, and they have a whole hierarchy. By no means are we pretending to have that happen here, because there's beauty in the informality of our community, where a neighborhood block doesn't need to have a formal organization in the form of a 501c3. I mean, we totally agree that it shouldn't be that at all. So a simple one pager type of thing. We, of course, staff will help with doing a cost estimate, trying to refine the request so that when you see it here, it will have a cost estimate. It'll have other things as well. Does it require a contractor? Of course, a lot of that will end up on us to carry it out and implement it. A lot of it. Some of it, if say a community puts in a request for running neighborhood cleanups on a quarterly basis for a whole year. So they request for funding for supplies and a request for funding for, drinks and providing food for the volunteers and, that kind of stuff. We may have very little involvement as a city, but, that could be one request where just a group of volunteers from a block say, we want to do cleanups, sweeping literally and, removing weeds and that kind of stuff from the right of way. And maybe occasionally help with some of the yards on the private side, but we talked about not going into the private side and keeping it only to the public right of way. So there's a multiple of ways in which neighborhoods or neighbors, community members, organizations, schools, for example, schools. There were schools from the school district and the central administration wondering if the SOC was going to provide could provide funding for student groups to go on sort of educational enrichment, such as, like if some sort of form of tutoring or a trip to a museum, things like that. The range of the organizations that you think should be eligible to apply is endless, or it could be the whole spectrum. But that's why I think you discussing whether we should have it wide open, we should limit it only to certain types of organizations. That part is wide open.
So let me, I guess maybe I'm getting too much into the weeds of it because I think I'm getting very like, what does it say here? And you know what I mean? So let's maybe start in this direction. As my colleagues up here, are there any, maybe one or two things that you definitely think should be part of the application process? And then we'll get to what you mentioned, Enrique.
I want to say this, we have people come to the church that is in need of money or this or that. And instead of just giving out money for this and that, there's a criteria that needs to be set before we give out. You're going to get everybody to come in, but what's the criteria of receiving this money? Even though it's their tax money, it belongs to them, but it still should be some type of a program that we set up that allows people to come in and get, if we go in that route.
So what should the criteria be? What do you think? Let's start with that.
Okay, I don't know just yet. Let me just use it for a scenario. Since I know Tony Mahika, he has a gym for judo. Maybe there people wants to have new mats or new things to present that to the SOC program, and why do I need this money? Well, look at our uniform. This is just an example. Look at our uniform. Look at our mats. We need to upgrade, and they don't have the finances to upgrade. Like I said, I'm just giving a scenario on one of the criterias that we need. Okay, also, brother here can also give a scenario because he deals with ball people, their uniforms, gloves, and transportation, that it needs to be laid out, A, B, C, D. This is why we need finances.
May I add something to that?
Yes.
And that's a good idea. And also, for example, let's say Greg is requesting mats for his team. Also show, what have you done
Mhm.
to fundraise, to provide the mats? And maybe he says, well, I fundraise this much and we always fundraise around this much, but we're short this much. So that you can provide the differences if that's what you choose to do. Show the need and what they have done to be able to fund the programs. Another thing I wanted to add, you were talking about grants and applying for grants, but I'm thinking, Enrique, as a city, we already work with funding for different projects, whether it's a street project, a lighting project, you name it, whatever it is. I think when it comes to funding certain projects as a city, we also look into grants, and you subsidize, the SOC would subsidize whatever funding we don't have enough. Like the sports complex, I'm thinking that we don't expect all the funding to come out of SOC. We have to look for grant opportunities and other monies to be able to fund that project. And so as a SOC committee, you're going to come in and help because it's something the community wants, provide whatever we weren't able to get grants on, whatever money we weren't able to get. But we're not just going to sit back as a city, Enrique, and give it all to you. Oh, well, the streetlights need to be fixed. So SOC, you're going to fix those streetlights. We're asking, for money. No. What else are we doing as a city? Where are we getting funding? Are we already applying for all the grants and all the monies that we can get from the federal government and the state to provide that? Now, once we've done all that, we don't have enough money, then we come to you and say, we're short this. Just when the chief made his presentation, he told you what he had funding, how much he was funding from his end, and how much he needed to complete the funding. So I think for everything, every project that's presented and approved, you need to have that. How much is your organization doing to provide the funding? And then how much do we need to help you with? And can we help you with the rest of the funding?
I'm hearing two things on this grant so far. What is the need and what have you done to meet the need? And then I think they should be Baldwin Park residents or serving Baldwin Park residents, because a lot of times it may not be someone that is from Baldwin Park, but they are serving and benefiting our residents. I also think we need to determine an amount, and I would say whatever that amount what I would think it has to read is up to max. I don't want to say like 20,000 because we also we don't know that a project is going to necessarily, if it's less than that, require that much. And I don't want it to read on paper in a way where we're just giving $20,000, every time, if that's the amount.
That makes sense. Up to,
Up to.
yeah.
Chair, when it comes to grant framework, is there a list of grants that the city already providing for the resident of Baldwin Park so that we are not paying it twice, just so to speak? If you have a list of that, we can look at it. Also, would that be a template, right, that we can follow by how much you guys are giving out, how much you guys are expecting us to give out? How are they gonna try us first before they try you guys, or both?
Yes, we will definitely research if there's one grant program that came to mind with when Member Soto asked about an existing framework that we might have used, and this had to do with small businesses seeking to improve their front facade. I think that was done in the form of a grant. I just don't know. We will research it and provide you how we went about that program.
Madam Chair, let me give you a scenario on something, because when I had our men's home here in Baldwin Park, I got a grant from the city to help run that men's home, but it definitely wasn't enough. It was help, but it definitely was not enough money. So I got a grant from the city to run that men's home, but it wasn't enough. And again, using another scenario, like coming to the SOC program to see if I can get an additional money to subsidize what we need. You know, this is things that we have to kind of think about.
Yeah, and just with you saying that, I'm already thinking we have to differentiate an organization from an individual. Because if I'm an individual, there are no other grants that I would have necessarily
Right.
gone for. So there would be no other supplemental income to that. But I do agree, as you both have said, that if it is an actual entity, they need to show like what they have, applied for to fill the gap, and now how we're supporting that last, piece.
Same thing as Councilman Member Jackson said, I think all these requests should go to the city and they filter to us, because they're very knowledgeable on what grants you guys have presently. Fund X, they requested this, and they can come back to the SOC committee asking for additional funds. But if we get 100 requests at the SOC committee for granting funding things out of our pocket, and there's a grant sitting on the other side of the fence that we didn't know about because it came to us first, instead of going through the city, and the city has knowledge of all these grants and all this money that's available from different places. I think the secondary filter on it. So I think as the requests come in, I got a request from Baldwin Park baseball high school for upgrade on their field, general request. I don't know how much that is. I don't know what it takes. Is that a city thing? Is it a school thing? Or is it a combination of city, school, and SOC? Don't know, but if there's funding on A, B, and we're C, it saves the SOC committee from emptying our bucket out. So that's what I think we should, maybe the infrastructure should be filtered through the city first and then come to the SOC and see if we have any chance to vote on it.
I think the sports organizations would be sort of like a, not long ago, to Councilmember Avila's point, the Eastside Little League, who started from scratch, since they had gone on hiatus for 3 years, I believe, and they started over. They had no equipment. They did fundraising for a lot of things, and then the city helped them out a little bit as well. But they did a lot of fundraising, but they raised money even for a pitcher's mount. We can, because they didn't have a mount. So but the sports organizations come to mind as having a clear understanding of their needs and the gaps they have in funding, right? School organizations, sometimes church organizations as well, to Pastor Jackson's point, whether you would be inclined to consider requests from church organizations. My recommendation is that you do, but that can go into the criteria, whether church organizations should also be eligible to receive or to apply for funding. And yes, we would vet the submittals for you. We would add a cost estimate. We will look at what else the program can possibly be eligible for funding, other type of funding or matching funding. of the like, yeah, we will definitely do all that vetting.
And you'll
I'll
put
be-
that on the proposal, just so we're aware of.
We would,
Okay.
somebody, to your point about keeping it very simple. And, someone wanting to make their request a little more compelling without expecting them to be so sophisticated that they somehow will be at a disadvantage by not. But someone who says, look, I want to leverage SOC funding with my own fundraising. I mean, that will obviously make it more appealing, but it shouldn't be only if, folks have that sort of sophistication to, as you said, Madam Chair, if a resident just wants the sidewalk from, point A to point B repaired and that's all they care, city, take care of this through the SOC. Now, if they say they submit their request, we will do exactly what Councilmember Avila said. We will see, do we have this in any of our grants? Is this already included in something that's programmed for 3 years? It's just we haven't been able to build it. Is this part of a district assessment? I mean, there are many assessment districts within the city for lighting and for landscape, right? But, those are taxable assessments and, we don't want to impact the community by increasing their assessment, the tax assessment, when we already did the Measure BP sales tax. So rather than be thinking of increasing their tax assessment, it's probably best to try to do through the SOC.
Yeah, and I don't think we meant to say that if we have knowledge that there's other funding available that will look at the proposal any differently. I think it just helps to give us a full picture. Because we might get one where we're like, wait a minute, that's not enough. Like, how is this going to get done? So I think it's just for the sake of knowing that it is going to get done, that it's not going to be half of a project completion, and just to get a bigger picture. But I don't think in any way that it would, give us another perception, of the individual or the proposal.
And I think, we first need to kind of add all the elements that everybody, or the criteria that you guys have discussed, and then just add on there, what the process is going to be. Are they going to come in and present it to us here? Do they present, is there like a area where they either email it or submit it or walk in, and then the city then takes ownership of it to review it, and then does the assessment, and then gives us the proposal with the individual coming in to present it to us? I mean, we need to set up, like, it's great to have like all these scenarios because it gives us an idea, but I think we need to have something in writing where this is what the form will kind of look like, even if it's a draft. So everyone's on the same page. And that way the community also knows what we're doing. So this is what the framework is going to look like. We're working on it. We are going to have a form for you, and kind of, with what Councilmember Avila said, is keep everyone informed. So the minutes, not everyone might read them. So, but if we put specific projects in the pipeline, like on the website or on the Baldwin Park Now, where it says, working on this project. So right now, the couple projects that were approved, and then the projects that we're working on, what their status is, and then this project of creating a framework and creating a form for submission, and what the process is. So right now we are in the beginning phases, right? We're putting it together. Next month, you will see something, and then you will get to review it and also, come and give comment about it. That way we keep everyone engaged. We also incorporate the ideas. And then obviously we are not here all the time. So these, recommendations or submissions need to go somewhere, and the community members need to know where they need to go to. So simple criteria, and then a framework, and then letting them know that we are working on it.
And if you had your inkling in regards to like an upper, at least as you said, Madam Chair, this will evolve. But in the beginning, 20,000 feels like a good amount as a cap.
I think so. But I don't know if there's any other opinions.
And then once we're done with that 20,000, there's no more grant to be put out?
No, in other words, like what's the number we feel comfortable to say that specific request up to what it could fund dollar amount?
Now, help me out.
Sorry, I think I'm
Are
being
we
wordy.
talking about group or individual groups?
Either or.
Either or.
Or.
Right.
So we just have
Okay.
to have a comfortable number where whatever we decide on, I think the language needs to say up to a max of, just so that we can fund anywhere from 5,000.
Okay, now I'm
No.
gonna do this again.
Um,
You didn't spend your 20,000, but I need 5,000 for doing something else. Can I get a grant?
You mean the same individual?
No, this is a different person coming in asking for a grant. Has never gotten a grant before, but we didn't spend our 20,000.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. We have to come up with, it would be up to 20,000 per awardee.
So the answer is no, because we didn't spend? Or do I go above it?
Are you talking about projects or individual organizations? Because as you know, projects are costly. What exactly are you guys talking about?
Well, I'm talking about like residents that come requesting a mini grant. Or organizations like, oh, we need funding for a field trip or to buy mats. Because we have to establish, maybe I'm not understanding, we have to establish a dollar amount per grant.
Like a maximum ceiling,
Yeah.
an upper
So in other
limit.
words, I am applying for mats. My cost is 5,000.
So you,
It's up to 20, but I only get 5,000. That's it.
so you're talking like small organizations, like a
Right, like
sports,
small organizations or individual, no, not large. And that's why I said we have to be mindful too as these requests are coming. Because
Mhm.
like I said, some requests might be like, yeah, it's something in my neighborhood, but it's part of a bigger project where I
Yeah,
feel
that-
like we wouldn't fund that if down the pipeline, we're gonna, like the sidewalks.
The city, or let's say city already has a
Right,
project
right,
for that.
right. So I think we still have to weed those out because it might be part of a bigger project.
Mhm.
But no, you're right. It would be individuals or community members that come as a group
Small
or small
organization.
like organizations. And that's why I say we have to determine like up to how much we're awarding per grant.
Mhm. And one of the things you were talking about is for the business infrastructure, like you said, like the facade of a building, let's say they want to. Black.
So as an example of something that we had done in the past,
Right.
and we have not included businesses yet, although that, we had under economic development,
Mhm.
we had business retention. It's one of the categories, but
Like, for example, let's say we do have that economic development and as a city, it wouldn't make sense to have them spend money of that if we're already going to have a grant for economic development.
Oh, and that's why to Greg's point, I love what you said because I would love someone at the city side to screen those proposals. Because if something like that were to pop up, it wouldn't come to us. Right.
He's already in
Right.
place.
So that's why I do, even to what you mentioned, I would love that process to be that it starts on the city side. Someone is screening that to make sure there aren't any other grants that could cover that before they come to the SOC.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
when it comes to grants like that, is it gonna be like just gotta apply one time, or is it like a recurrent thing yearly? Every single 3 years, or when I'm out of money, can I come back? I think that need to be,
Yeah, and I think we have to
Adjust.
determine that
Yeah.
because we need to be equitable and kind of spread the love.
yeah,
Like you keep coming
absolutely,
back.
absolutely, absolutely.
I don't know.
Madam
I
Chair.
know Councilmember Jackson was getting into a question there. So we put a $20,000 cap on a organization. So is there a cap on how many organization we fund month and quarter?
There we go.
So
Okay, that's
if we
what you
have
meant.
20 people come and they all want $20,000, that's 400 grand, is there a cap on how many organizations we allow grants to in a month and a quarter and a year? Otherwise, our piggy bank's open and they want to come in.
And
Oh.
add on to what you had said in dealing with the grant that I had to keep track of every dollar and where that dollar went,
Right.
and then present it to the city and say, this is what and where
It went.
and how.
So then, I don't know how my colleagues feel, but I mean, not trying to restrict things, and should we just start with residents? I don't know.
I want to do this again. If you just excuse
Sure.
me.
No, go ahead, Pastor Jackson.
I'm gonna give another scenario, and we're dealing with residents. There is someone in the community that had passed on, and the family does not have money to bury them or have a funeral. Can I come to SOC and get a grant to bury whomever?
I know where you're getting at. It's part of the, I think you mentioned earlier, the restrictions or the requirements. So I think we have to narrow down what it would be for. So I'm thinking like, okay, maybe beautification projects, enrichment projects.
It has to be a benefit to the community, not a benefit to an individual.
But we already have the criteria. We already have like the different examples
Right.
or so if one like that wouldn't fit in any of those
True.
categories. So then
That's-
automatically if that would to come in, then, if there's a screening process, it wouldn't even come to us. So
Correct.
we wouldn't have to even review it or vote on it. Yeah. And I think that's where I was getting at. I think, we can go around and just continue to give so many ideas and, I think we get it. So I think, if we just start looking at, okay, let's put the processes in place and start working on the form, get feedback from the community, see what they feel also, because at the end of the day, this is what we're here for, right? So let's start gathering all the information, what we want in the proposals, what it would look like, and then we can, review it and then, continue.
Do you feel like you got enough from us? Like just listening to Going
I did. But and at the next meeting, you can take up the point that member Orozco made about, is there an allocation, a global allocation that you feel comfortable, not on an individual request, but like a total, right? Is it 100,000? Is it, but don't decide that today. But that you also, it's evolving. We're all new at this, okay?
We're learning.
It's a good experiment.
Can I make a quick comment on that? The one thing I have the concern with the mini grants is I don't want to feel like a first come, first serve basis where we might hear something and then by the time they hear about the grant, and they're like, oh, I want to be involved in that. We hit our max already if we have the group total. That's just one thing I want to consider of how do we make it that it doesn't feel like, oh, I missed my chance. I heard about it like a month after, but now all the funding's gone with that. Because that's one thing. I know funding is super limited. And I know we're gonna be like, oh my gosh, that sounds so important. That sounds really great. Let's do that. And then I just want to make sure we can make it as equitable as possible that everybody has a chance to at least say it before we vote on it. So if we do it like a quarterly, but with certain exceptions, like if it's a super time sensitive thing, but if not, be like, hey, maybe let's vote on it. Let's hear all the proposals. Let's vote on it all together to see like which one we think we want to fund this time, or we're funding these 3 out of 5, and then we'll take a new round later. Rounds maybe. That's just a suggestion of that one concern that I thought of when everyone was talking.
So maybe something we can think of for the next meeting is, which I think something you might have mentioned, Craig, is how reoccurring do we open those windows of opportunity? And then maybe the way we ensure that everybody has a fair opportunity and it's equitable is that when it does open, there's like an open date and an end date so that we have everybody's, so that it's not just first come, first serve. Because I could see how we're going based on that. And then at the end, we get something and we're like, oh, man.
And
Right.
if I may, and I think
Yes.
it needs to fall in the areas that the community members felt it was the need and where the money should be spent. It needs to fall within, safety and enhancement, whatever areas those were the priority.
Other categories.
Monies need to fall under that. Yeah.
I had one thing, maybe I'll ask legal on this. Say if a entity came, boys, baseball from Baldwin Park High School, give them $5,000 to fix their field. Are we entitled to do the same for girls softball? Because it's Title IX? Yeah, it's just I mean, if they came to, if boys came to us for a funds, but the girls didn't, do we allocate anything or it just
No,
goes
you
to the
don't,
person, the group that asked for the funding?
You don't have an affirmative duty to provide funding for somebody who doesn't seek it. I'm looking at like what the standard of review is for your decision. And all you really need to find is a public purpose for your expenditure. And if you find that with the boys, then it's going to be upheld. It's not a violation of the law. If you find it with the girls team, it's not a violation of the law. But if you grant funding to an organization that seeks it, and you don't have to go out of your way to grant that funding to an organization that does not seek it.
To know.
well,
Seven.
this was very helpful. So we have enough for the next meeting.
Okay. Perfect. And we'll continue to think upon this for further discussion next month. So we'll go ahead and move on to item 4, proposal, request for Measure BP funding improvements at Morgan Park.
So Manny will present it. I think you also have a presentation, right, Manny?
Yes, sir. I have Recreation Community Services Manager, Maria Moreno, that will give a brief presentation. Maria, take it away.
Okay. Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the SOC Committee. Tonight, we're going to be presenting a proposal for the Morgan Park improvements, Morgan Park. Next slide. Little bit of background. In 2016, the Los Angeles County conducted a comprehensive park and recreation needs assessment. It was first in the nation. Never before has this type of assessment been done. Results from the assessment determined that the city of Baldwin Park continues to rank as a very park poor community with only 0.3 park acres per thousand, compared to the county's average of 3.3 per thousand. In addition, 22% of the population has accessibility to walk to park, compared to county average of 49%, that they're within the park, walk distance to a park. And as you see on the map, number 54 in the area location, that's the study area for Baldwin Park. And it's red, which is a very park poor city. We're in high need. Next slide, please. Additional background on our park system. We currently have 5 parks within the city. I'll go through them quickly. Barnes Park with 6.5 acres. Hill de El Solis, 1.9 acres. Shire Park, 1.3 acres. Walnut Creek Nature Park, 4.5 acres. And Morgan Park with 8 acres, a little bit over 8. As you know, Morgan Park is the flagship park in the city. And it's enjoyed by thousands of users, especially during the summer concerts in the parks and the downtown street market, not to mention other city events. The life expectancy is short due to the usage and the popularity of the park. And Morgan Park was last renovated in 2010. Next, which brings us to today. For your consideration, the community wanted to bring up to your attention that community expressed their desire to see park improvements and new sports complex during the community engagement meetings for the ARPA and the education campaign of Measure BP. In response to that, the department secured an architect for conceptual scope, which we applied for several grants. And unfortunately, on this last round, this project did not get selected, although Roadside Park did move on to the national level. Today, we are requesting funding from consideration for this particular project to expand the plaza area. As you can see, it's highlighted in the rendering. The play water features, playground equipment, as well as maximizing the ADA access. In addition, this will increase the shaded areas, improve landscaping and irrigation, the basketball courts, backboards, resurfacing of the floor, and improving the lighting throughout the project. This is just a conceptual. If funded, we would take this back to the community for their community input as well as design. Next. Currently, we do have adjacent to the proposed project, we have the recently approved by City Council, the Morgan Park outdoor restroom improvements. That particular project is funded through ARPA and it's currently under review. If approved, both projects will complement each other. And overall, this project will enhance the quality of life for our residents and as well as users. Next slide. The project cost estimate is a little bit over 2.8 million. Project includes a 10% contingency. David, can you hit next? There you go. And you'll see the different funding breakdown. We have community development block grant for 600,000, which would take 21%. We have Los Angeles County Regional Park and Open Space District with a little bit over 1.2 million, which is about 45% of the project. And today we are asking Measure BP to consider a $1 million allocation to complete the project. As mentioned, we have applied for grants. We also have other dedicated funding source, and today's ask will complete the project to move on to the next step. And that pretty much concludes the presentation. Thank you for your time.
Does the committee have any questions in regards to the project? Maria would be more than happy to answer them.
If I wanted to highlight, Manny, the fact that just through my own experience, I have heard all of the SOC members mention Morgan Park in one form or another because you experience Morgan Park in your, if not in your daily life, certainly in many of the events that you are part of. So while the department has presented a proposal, it's conceptual and certainly open for editing from the SOC. I mean, if they are, one particular thing I have heard the SOC committee bring up time and again is that there's a need for more lighting at the park, all throughout the park. And I think the scope of this project addresses that, right, Maria?
That is correct.
That's just an example of things that I have heard the SOC members mention.
Do we have the timeline on this?
If approved, we anticipate probably project development and design within the next probably 9 months to a year.
Yes, I would think next 9 to 12 months, we would go ahead and get all the plans approved and go out to bid. Marie and I were talking earlier. We anticipate the restrooms opening up next summer. And the following summer, we anticipate this project, if funded, to be completed. So that would be summer of 26.
26.
Okay.
Questions or comments? Go ahead.
First and foremost, you have to excuse me. I just got my shingles shot and I'm having like reaction to that.
It hits really bad over here.
No, no, I'm okay. Listen, as far as the senior center, we need a lot of improvements there. The kitchen, then it needs a new floor. We need a new dishwasher because I'm there 3 days a week. And Javier, he knows too. He's been there. And also we have the little school in the back that is empty that we can use that for other events. Also, we need, like I said, a lot of improvement in there because more seniors are coming and the space is getting smaller and smaller. And there's a lot of baby boomers that are already retiring. They're coming, and not only from the city of Baldwin Park, but other cities. So yes, the senior center needs a lot of expansion and a lot of new, I would say, projects. Because the dishwasher we got there is over 30 years, and we need new plumbing also. And that alone, I don't know how much it costs, but I'll give you an estimate of probably maybe $30,000. You know, but yes, it does need a lot of because, like I said, Mr. Navarro and myself, we're the only ones that are all over the place, and we see what the needs of the senior center are. So honestly, for me, I wouldn't have no problem to say yes to the request because that's my second home. And a lot of people that go there to distract themselves, to have fun, to have a good time. And there's events that we have, and like I said, they coming from all over the San Gabriel Valley. But I personally, I will say yes to the request because I'm there. I wish some of you can go there also and see. So you don't think that I'm lying or I'm taking part. No, because I see what the needs are. Thank you.
I do have a question. So this will encompass all of the senior center, the community center, like the whole area, like everything within Morgan Park?
The proposed project is right outside the senior center, where the playground is. That's considered the plaza area. It has two playgrounds, a splash pad and a seating area, gathering area, just adjacent to the amphitheater and the restrooms. So this proposal will expand the footprint, maximize in ADA accessibility for all users. So it is to enlarge the play area for the users.
Okay.
So
So I
right outside the senior center. It's not quite inside. We could always come back with the projects Member Hernandez has mentioned.
Yeah, that was what my question was, because I know he's talking about the senior center needs and, the upgrades that's needed and expansion of that, but I didn't hear that was part of this proposal. That's why I was asking, but yeah, that's what I thought. I thought it was like the outside, the plaza area, like where all the events are held. So I'm very familiar with it because I myself use it. So I understand, but I just wanted to make sure that you also understood that it wasn't to expand the senior center and it wasn't to fix or bring in new equipment and stuff like that. I just wanted to make sure it was clear.
Thank you. Yeah, but sorry to interrupt you again. Yeah, but besides the outside that is going to be renewed, remodeled, senior center needs also a lot of work to be done. I cannot ignore it. I cannot. And and for the safety of the seniors, we should have the facility for the disabled people because I have to help some of the seniors with the walker to open the door. And I would like to see the doors where you have that handicap button that can open automatically for them.
Yeah, no, I completely understand. I hope you don't think I was saying like this is not to cover that, but I would just wanted to make sure that you understood that this,
Yes, yeah,
the
yes, I
funding that they were requesting. But I think, with your suggestion and ideas, I think it'd be great for a proposal to be submitted specifically for the enhancements of the senior center, because I know you've vocalized that several times. And I think, it's a big concern, I think, for our senior members in our in our community. So I think that, someone should shed a light on that and maybe submit some sort of proposal. But I just wanted to make sure that we were all understanding of what the proposal or what was being requested versus what the needs were for that specific center.
And just to reiterate, the request is $1 million and the estimate does include a 10% contingency, in there. Okay.
I'd also like to interject, it also includes the resurfacing and a new basketball court for 2 basketball courts. So once again, Maria mentioned, it's increasing the footprint of both playground apparatuses, as well as increasing the footprint of the splash pad, as well as new basketball courts. Thank you.
I had a question related to this project. I noticed that it said that there would be accessibility to mobility devices and, and
Sorry, I can't hear.
accessibility to more mobility devices. I just want to know more detail about the keynote number 1 on the sheet that we have right here. I'm not sure if
Mobility devices,
yeah, because it says
that would be like a walker, wheelchair, cane. So there'll be more features for users to be able to enjoy, just like the other users.
perfect.
And I could probably expand a little bit more on that. All of our facilities are ADA compliant. Although this facility, and I'll give you an example because what we have this evening is a conceptual, we would need to get feedback from the community. But if there's an individual in a wheelchair, we may have a swing that can accommodate a wheelchair or have ramps versus stairs going up to the playground apparatuses. So lots of opportunities. When we constructed the playground back in 2010, some of these features were not around. Now they are very well used within community parks. So we are hoping to incorporate some of the best practices that are currently out there.
And one more, can you expand on just more seating? I know you said there's gonna be more shades, but is that gonna cover the seating area or is it just gonna cover the playground area?
It would be to cover playground, water features, and also the seating area, gathering area for parents and spectators.
But I'd also like to add, we currently only have 2 shade sails in the playground apparatuses, one on the older and then one on the younger. We are proposing, it's once again, it's merely conceptual, but the cost estimate includes about a dozen shade sails. So we will actually have shade on the playground structures. In addition, we are proposing shade sails over the splash pad.
So then just, while we manifest and make this sports complex happen, hopefully at 2 sites. So it sounds like this is really meant to even expand what we have in the park right now to be more inclusive, but also to accommodate for more. Is that correct, Manny?
Yes, we are increasing the footprint where we are making it more accessible to all bodies, all abilities, and we are not increasing the park acreage,
No.
but we are definitely utilizing the park to the fullest extent. As Maria mentioned during the presentation, our facilities are used quite a bit. Our life expectancy is shortened quite a bit because of the over usage. It is a local park. It's a community park, but as Enrique mentioned in the staff report, this park is a flagship. It is really a regional type of facility. The events that we host at Morgan Park draw from all over the San Gabriel Valley.
Let me ask a question here. And are there any plans on enhancing the senior citizen building. I remember when we went on our tours and it was really nice seeing some really nice looking senior buildings and the security that they had in there. Is there any plans on?
Sure, I could go ahead and comment on that. We have a long laundry list of items that we would like addressed. At the top of that list is our senior center. We have a multi-generational type of facility. We're very fortunate that it's adjacent to a community center. So our seniors are very fortunate they have access to a pool, ping pong tables, uh, billiard tables, weight room, boxing, all kinds of different facilities, a technology center that are not in a traditional indoor pool, in a traditional senior center. So by leveraging all the facilities, it works out very well. But getting back to the question about the senior center, we are looking at upgrading the kitchen, expanding some of the storage room. Jorge and I have been chatting about this for months, if not years, in regards to improvements. We have the former daycare facility behind the senior center. We would also like to turn that into a multi-purpose facility that's currently where Tough Kids Wrestling's at, some of our music programs. So we definitely have ideas. In addition, the community center front counter area is from 1988. So the architecture is from 1988. The basketball flooring, if you take a close look at the wood, although Maria and her contractors have done a wonderful job at preserving the wood, some of the wood needs to be replaced. So we have a long list. I'm very happy to report back that the crash pads and the judo mats have been ordered out of ARPA funds. Coach Greg, the mats have been ordered, or the wrestling mats have been ordered for the Tough Kids Wrestling program out of the ARPA funds. So we are definitely moving forward. But in terms of larger scale items like the senior center, the community center, the repurpose of the retired 6 classrooms, we would like to repurpose that. So we definitely have a long list. The senior center is used quite a bit for rentals. It is used every weekend. So when the seniors come back to the facility Monday morning at 7 a.m., it may not be as clean as it should be because we had a big rental. We had a church have a rental Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon. We have some sort of other event. So we only have the rental facility at the senior center and the ARC. You would think that's enough, but it isn't. We need more rental space. And I would love to get to one day where we do not rent the senior center so much. Maybe 4 times a month, every Saturday, Sunday, Friday. It's just maybe a little bit too much. Maybe we could shift some of the usage to the multi-purpose area where the 6 classrooms are currently at. There's opportunities there, and we would like to explore if the commission or the committee feels that you would like us to prepare a report to bring back. We would definitely do that. We have a laundry list of items that we would like address, but we want to be respectful of your time and the city's resources. So this is what we're pitching today, because we've secured funding from multiple funding sources. And it is something that the community asked for. And I think it's what the community would like to see.
So, Manny, I think with that, if the SOC committee would be so inclined to direct us to either include the scope for the senior center as part of this project or present another request for funding for specific to the senior center. I mean, you can give us direction on that.
I would say separate, and this is where I could be wrong, but it sounds like the funding that's allocated right now can only be used specifically for the park. Is that correct?
The request that we have tonight for 1 million would be for the improvements to the plaza, which includes the 2 playgrounds, splash pad, basketball courts, and shade sails, landscape, irrigation, and lighting.
No, but what I mean, Manny, is what, I know that's what we're giving, but the other, like the CDBG and Measure A, that could not be used for the senior center.
Correct.
So that's what I'm saying. I feel like we
yes.
need to keep it separate. And then if we can get another proposal that's just specific to the senior center.
Yeah, and I think that's where I was getting to, because I didn't want anyone to be confused.
Mm.
So what you're proposing is not the senior center and all the upgrades and other suggestions that you want to do to, to make the senior center better or use that multi-purpose room. I think that should be kept separate, because what you're presenting right here is the funding that you have been getting and the grants that are allocated or going to be allocated to this improvement, and the $1 million that you guys are asking for is going to for this improvement. So that's why I kept, wanting to make sure that we stayed within, just to make sure that we all understand where the money is coming from. I mean, where the money is going to, and what money is coming from us, and what you have allocated already from other grants or secured from other grants. So I agree. I think maybe we could
Could we,
vote on.
could we ask for a recommendation on the proposal, to the senior center? The next time we meet, because I don't know who's supposed to, take charge of the project. Definitely not us, right? Somebody gotta propose it, correct?
I think, Manny, you mentioned that you have a laundry list of
Yes.
things that need to be, and that included the senior center, right?
Yes, I would need to check with our CEO, our city manager, and find out how is best to proceed. I suspect possibly a conceptual might be best.
I think if the SOC would be open to us to only, in addition to this proposal or this request, that we only look at the senior center, because, the rest of the improvements can take up all of the funding, and, there'll be other cycles, hopefully, depending on how you see the drawdown on the balance, but we hear time and again to ensure that the priority remains the sports complex, and you're not looking to be hoarding the money. I know you're not, but neither should be drawing it down so much that, what if we land the opportunity to secure the land sooner than we had ever anticipated, and now we got to really go to work on the sports complex. But I would say that if you direct us to come back with a senior center specific proposal this time around.
Maybe not the entire revamp of the whole thing, but, to make the quality of life better. Just portions of it to make the living conditions better. I'm not asking for the whole revamp, like, let's have a new one.
I see.
Also think we're
Okay.
getting we got very off topic from what we're actually presented. If we can shift our focus back and I think we could talk about senior center afterwards and subject to what proposal can be next, but I would really like to focus back. Not that's not important, but we have something in front of us.
I know, I completely agree. I think focus on what was presented, and then go back and, because the senior center has been like a focus, and like, I think we've had so many community members speak about it. I think that's why it was important, but I think I agree with you, maybe,
Are there any other questions then on this proposal? Okay, so then I guess we take a vote, and I have to be reminded, is it a roll call vote? Okay,
I'm gonna make a motion.
can I get a motion?
I make a motion to vote on the request for Measure BP funding for Morgan Park improvements.
Second?
Second.
We have a motion on the floor. Member Hernandez. Member Martha Carmo.
yes.
Member Orozco.
Yes.
Member Rodriguez.
Yes.
Member Nguyen.
Yes.
Vice Chair Jackson,
Yes.
Chair Latta,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Just one request, man. We don't do the maintenance in July. Cause I had like about 80 parents tell me about the maintenance at the park.
Yes, sir. We will take care of that.
So I think with that, we can move on to item five, I'm sorry, the Stakeholders Oversight Committee staff requests and communications. And that would be where, yes, I think the committee would like to see what the proposal would be for the senior center. And actually, I do think we should get the whole thing only because I feel like if we want to be conservative with the dollar amounts, I think we can actually even see if there's a way to tier like the needs. I don't know what everyone else here thinks, just so that we can get the overall picture of what the entire need looks like. And then deciding, because I know you've mentioned it before, we don't have to necessarily approve everything, correct?
Right.
I think that's a good comment of getting an overview and then seeing what we want to or what we can actually fund.
Right.
I agree there. I think if open idea here, we put it in an overall and we cut it up in two parts. We've heard the security issue and we heard the upgrades or upkeep of the property. If we cut it up in A and
Good
B,
idea.
the security, the doors, the fob keys, etc. And then the washer and everything else set on the other side, so we can actually, if we vote on each part of it.
I agree.
And I think one of the things that we can highlight is when we're bringing this information back to the community is actually saying, you know, we have been hearing this and this is why we're acting on it. And, you know, it's not because, you know, we're bringing it up or because we have something in it. We are residents. And like, you know, you know, is it, I forgot his name. Jorge, what Jorge has been really adamant about. But it's not just him, it's what we have been hearing in all these meetings. It was about the safety, the lighting, and a lot of the needs that our seniors need. So I want to make sure that when we do communicate it, we do say that, and it's not just, oh, because we're saying it or because Enrique said it.
I have a quick question, if I may. So when you're talking about the information you need for the senior center, are you also talking getting information for the community center, since it's something that the seniors use, like the billiards, the basketball courts and all that? Do you want an estimate on that as well, or just the actual senior center?
Just the senior center.
Not the community center where they play?
Wasn't that
Pool.
part of the
Yeah,
innovation?
no, I'd like to
No?
emphasize
Yeah.
that the seniors also utilize the community center.
Correct.
Oh, I
So
thought-
both
okay.
facilities are
Got it.
interchangeable.
Got it.
Yes, so they,
Okay, now I understand.
Yes.
Okay.
it's two different areas, but they both, they get used by the seniors.
So maybe it can be three, where one is that the commonly used areas that overlap, then the safety, and then everything else in that third.
So then that would mean the community center also, where you have the pool tables and all that, the restrooms and
Yes.
classrooms, the front desk, correct?
Thank you for clarifying. Yes, I
wanna
misunderstood.
make-
Very good. Thank you.
And actually, one of the things that I wanted to request moving forward, because I know we did see it tonight. Any requests that we get from departments, I think what I would want to see is not just what they're requesting, but just like Manny's, you know, staff report had, like how are they supplementing the rest? Just so that we get an overview, like I said, of the bigger picture, and not that it's going to impact one way or the other, but I think it just does help to know that they are leveraging other resources, where that's coming from and so forth, because I don't think I think the request from last month didn't have that. And again,
I think they were missing a couple
yeah,
of.
so I think moving forward for those department requests is if we can have the totality of the picture, including what they are asking the committee.
The bus stops you were referring to? Did anyone take up Jorge on his invitation to go and look at the bus stops? You and I are going next week, Jorge.
Both of the, I wrote both of the lines, the pumpkin line and the T line,
Yes.
just to go and check the bus stops. On some of the bus stops, we do share. Excuse me. The foothill
Yeah.
buses, benches, but there's other places that they don't have nothing, just grass, dirt, and no shade.
Yeah, no, so we're gonna bring that back with illustrations and then the multiple sources of funds, to your point, Madam Chair. What else has been used or can be used in conjunction with Measure BP?
You know, I mentioned it, I think last meeting, I say, it'll be nice if we can get all of us or whoever can go, ride the bus and look. And from there, then you can take your opinion, whether it's worth it or not.
But I don't think,
But
you
we
know,
have to look at what the community, at the same time, you're gonna start looking at the community on both sides, north side and south side.
no, I agree. I think what was missing was, it wasn't like the, the visual, because I know I go from one end to the city to the next, so I've seen the areas where there is nothing, and so I wasn't like, when I questioned that last time, it wasn't because of that, it was because we were not given complete information, money, as how much money was going in, how much was going to be invested, and if it had been presented to the city already. So, but I mean, I have been around, and I don't take the, the teal line or any of that, but I drive around a lot and enough to know that there is a need. So, but I do agree with you. I think the presentation today was great, because it gave us a big picture of where the money was going to be allocated, what was going to be done, and it was clear, and we knew where it was going. And I think that, once we continue to get others, and we could just incorporate that into our process.
Absolutely.
Anyone else have any comments, requests?
I have a request. We have all these projects that we know about, but we don't know where they're at. Barnes Parks upgrades, the dog park upgrade, Wilderness Park upgrade. Can we get a list so we're more educated when people do ask us, when's the dog park coming? I go, I know where it's at, but I don't know when it's coming.
Well, would you like us to go over our CIP program, which includes all of the projects? Some of them have been approved by the city council already, and some are not yet approved, but certainly the CIP approved list that the council has already approved, we can make a presentation on that.
That'd be great, because, we get asked questions and.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Sound educated at some point here,
No, we will. Absolutely. That's, yeah, great idea.
Also just want to comment,
And
I
May-
liked in the presentation that it also has here the subcategory of where in that overall list. Help us just say, hey, it does meet this, not that they're all check marks, but like it's.
I do want to thank Manny for bringing this up, and for Maria. I mean, she's gone, but she did a wonderful way of presenting it, because I think there are so many needs in the community, and that is our focal point of the city. And it does bring a lot of people, and all the festivities that the city council and everyone has been participating. We want to continue to thrive and want to continue to utilize the park. So I myself, as a resident, I utilize it all the time, and I do see the need. So I appreciate you for bringing it up.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else?
I just want to say, by utilizing the park, the tough kids, we had a tournament here. We're going to utilize the gym next week for a parent and kid interaction on the mat. Practice is going to be an interesting day. But with able to utilize the gym, Tough Kids, it's their 25th anniversary this year, but we lowered all our prices down to $25. And with the city funding, with the grant or scholarship fund, the kids in Ballin Park will be able to pay $6 to $10 to wrestle every month here. And we plan to do more tournaments, so hopefully we'll eliminate any cost going forward. I talked to Manny, I hosted another tournament in another city. It cost me thousands of dollars just for the gym. So I could not really implement that much money toward the kids at that point from that tournament. Tournament here was 100% successful, 100% profitable, and that money is funding this year's project to bring the funds down to $25, and the park is paying dividends for the community of the kids for wrestling. And I'd like to thank you, Manny.
Thank you.
Great. Okay. Well, seeing as there's no more comments, I'm going to go ahead and move that we adjourn the meeting. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Pastor Jackson. So the meeting is now adjourned. Good night, everyone, and thank you for coming tonight.
Good night.
Well, once again, I apologize for my cough. I don't have no COVID or anything like that, but I'm not used to that vaccine that